Facepalm America. I'm Beowulf Rockland. FacepalmAmerica.com is where you can get more information about the show, listen to past episodes, and connect with us on social media. So, it has been another week, and it is Friday, so that means it is time to speak with Susanne Posel, the host of This Week Again, a show that brings you all the critical events of the week from a left perspective, from a tongue-in-cheek perspective also. So, Susanne, welcome back. Thanks so much for being here on Facepalm America.
Thank you for having me back. I'm surprised, but I appreciate it. Thank you.
It shouldn't be any surprise. I mean, there's so much badness that is going on in the world, and there is so much to alleviate, I suppose is the word, with a little bit of humor. And you do that so well, and I really I think we all need a dose of that this week, and pretty much every week, at least as it's been going for the last few years. There's all sorts of horrible things going on here at home and abroad, certainly in the Middle East, as we've been seeing. All the horribleness that's going on there and the degree to which our own government is complicit in that, and cracking down not on the people who are, bombing, but funding them with incredible amounts of resources, and cracking down, of course, on the people who say, hey, that is not such a good idea. Let's actually not do that. So it's, there's a lot, I think, to talk about, and a lot to, use the balm of humor to get us in a place where we can just kind of breathe and live our lives, if we are fortunate enough to be in a time and place where we could do that. And I think you and I and many of our listeners are, but we have to keep in mind that others are not so fortunate. So I don't know where to begin.
Keeping with the theme,
yes.
The what's going on in the Middle East.
Yeah.
I don't understand. I guess because we don't have a pantheon of gods to look up to and pray to.
Yeah.
We have to elevate people who make large amounts of money. Under the assumption that they did that because they're smart. But Elon Musk keeps proving that assumption wrong.
Yes. And there is a regular segment before you plunge into this, and I know where you're going. Boy, our regular segment, why there shouldn't be billionaires, has never been proven more correct than this week. That is for sure.
Yes, he is the embodiment of that.
Yes.
He is privileged. He literally benefited from apartheid in South Africa growing up.
Yeah. Who knew that someone who grew up in apartheid South Africa, who benefited from his dad's share in an emerald mine, who knew that bad things would come out of that? I mean, you just you never would have guessed by his origin story. Yeah.
Give him every privilege that you can, and you think you're going to turn out a good one, and then you get, Elon. They knew that he was going to be bad. They couldn't give him a normal. Anyway, Who am I to judge?
Oh, please judge. I love for you to judge. Judging is I think, the only thing that we have left to us. We may not actually be able to impact the world around us because apparently we don't have the adequate resources or political connections, but at least we can judge. At least we can sit here and judge. That is A-OK on Facepalm America as far as I am concerned.
Yeah. So I'm sitting in a very cheap chair here, so I'm going to judge this billionaire. So, first of all, it's the website formerly known as Twitter. Okay. Yeah. He couldn't get anyone to call Tesla X. Yeah. He's not going to get us to call Twitter X. Yeah. So whatever.
Yeah. I have not once. I won't refer to it that way. I call it Twitter.
I won't out of spite. It's stupid.
I know. Yeah.
And I'm going stupid just can't come out of my mouth unless I thought of it. If it's your stupid, I just can't repeat it.
Own your stupid, Susanne. Own your stupid.
And I don't have, as soon as he bought Twitter, I killed my account. I have not been there. I hear about it in the news. like this endorsing anti-Semitism on Twitter,
Yeah.
which again, let's go back to where he grew up. Are we even shocked? Are we
Yeah.
even surprised?
Yes, and so here's the thing okay, so what he's done is he's like he has endorsed basically and reshared this right-wing racist nut job who basically says that Jews are being critical of white people, and that's the real problem. The accusations of anti-Semitism that we have seen so far have been directed against anyone who dares say that genocide is not a good idea. Per Gazans and Palestinians.
Because when you live a life of privilege,
Mm-hmm.
even if you can't see it,
Yeah.
any call of criticism or hey, we just don't do that in public is a slight against you, with all the might of a whirling army. It feels like the weight, like you are Atlas now, and you have to now carry this burden to Kevin or Karen your way out of this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this all goes back to the arguments with the Star of David, because Jews can be brown, Jews can be white, and if they're white passing, then how do you know if they're a Jew? And you got to be able to know. So wear the Star of David in gold on your lapel.
Yeah.
The other thing is, and I understand that the White House wants to respond because they're on this big kick. And yes, there is a kick up of anti-Semitism in all sorts of violence going on in our country right now, because now there's passage for it. And I understand that the White House needs to respond to that because that's part of their line of their narrative. Of course it should be, but also it has this unintended consequence of giving Elon some sort of credibility. And
in a weird way, yeah, because
do we really want to do that?
Yeah, here's the thing. Technically, the White House is correct that this is an awful thing to say, and he should be criticized for it, absolutely. But in the context of doing all the other horrible things that they've been doing in terms of denouncing people who are opposing genocide and fueling genocide with billions and billions of dollars and asking for more billions of dollars with which to fuel that genocide, it doesn't really seem like it's doing much of anything. So, my approach there would be to just like ignore everything that's going on. But there's so many different things that I would do if I were in the White House. It's just astounding. And to know that the wealthiest person on the face of the earth is just, bottom line, as far as I can tell, obviously I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychiatrist, but from what I can tell about his actions and what I can tell about his sleep habits, he clearly seems mentally ill to me. He really, and I don't know if he's ever going to get out of that just because he has so much power reinforcing his ego that he's going to continue to do the bad, unhealthy things that put him in this state. But at least, at the summit they've been having in San Francisco, he was dropped from that list, and that's a good thing. He should be ostracized, and hopefully there will continue to be ostracism, directed towards him from sensible people around the world. Unfortunately, he has so much money and so much power at this point. That's only going to make so much difference, and that is really the reason why there should not be billionaires, because your power and influence isolates you from the rest of humanity, and you can do terrible, horrible, no good, very bad things. Sometimes it can be funny and stupid, as we've seen in the past with Elon Musk or other people, but sometimes it can be horrific and awful and destructive. And we've seen that through the billionaire influence that has played out through the American political system, with laws changing throughout states and on a federal level in a way that make people's lives fundamentally worse and increase fundamentally the amount of suffering that takes place in this world. So separating yourself from humanity and not having that connection and reducing the amount of empathy that is connected to those billions and billions of dollars that have so much influence is a really horrible thing. And I think that is what at the root of what we see with these comments. He has no connection to the real world, and he has too much power to get away with it.
Yes, and if anything, I just remind myself all the time that Tesla was a good product until he took over, and now it's a scary product, which he demonstrated himself when he, of his own volition, live on a stream, put his vehicle while he was driving it in the self-drive mode and nearly killed himself. And so Twitter was a company that was burgeoning and getting up there and making a lot of money and worth a lot of money until he bought it.
Yeah.
And now it's worth nothing. So if anything, he has a knack, I guess, maybe a natural entrepreneurial spirit to take something that is worth something and completely destroy it.
Yeah. Well, and the fact that he's done this now multiple times goes to show you that how the scale on which he can fail, and it still not matter because he has like that much money. And people are just going to cater to his every possible whim in order to do what they think they need to do in order to survive. I mean, it bends the very shape of the universe around you when you have that much money. It's like a black hole with gravity being sucked into it. And people just treat you differently, and they will do anything that they can because they think they can get some of that money. That force is so powerful that that anything you do couldn't possibly be wrong, and that's why he's been allowed to fail and be horrific on the scale that he has. Speaking of horrific things, oh boy! So we a couple of weeks ago were talking about the polls that showed that Biden was behind in swing states in critical places in this country, the battleground states. I think 5 out of 7 of key battleground states he was behind, losing to Donald Trump, which is very frightening, given the fact that he seems to have no intention of stepping aside, no intention of resigning, no intention of dropping his campaign in the face of many calls, not just calls on the part of progressives like you and me, but calls on the part of people like David Axelrod, Obama's former advisor, who says that would be a pretty good idea right about now. And now we see another very reputable polling institute, the Marquette Law School, saying that he would lose not only to Trump and DeSantis by a little bit, but to Nikki Haley by 10 points. 10 points, for gosh sakes. And when, a very wise political person once told me, don't look at the registered voters, look at the likely voters. So for the registered voters, Nikki Haley leads him by 10%. Likely voters leads by 12%, actually. So it's actually even worse than we're thinking about. And you got to know that Joe Biden has got to be praying, and as is still probably the case so far, that Donald Trump will be the nominee of the Republican Party because that's who he stands the best chance against. That is the person he's desperately hoping, like, in spite of the fact that it could put us into a completely fascist state, he is hoping that it will be Trump because even though he's behind, he still stands the best chance there. And it goes to show you that, like, in raw terms, when you bring a ridiculous and dangerous figure like Donald Trump into the situation, it blurs the fact that Joe Biden fundamentally is a bad candidate and has policies that people really are not excited about.